This country is currently the world's 12th largest economy, but it might not survive this century. How can a top-tier country be heading toward extinction? Sounds impossible, but it's happening. To save its future, the nation is now offering nearly $40,000 to each woman just to give birth. Over $211 billion has been spent on the problem, yet the death sentence remains irreversible. What country is this desperate to survive? That country is South Korea. World-renowned for K-pop culture, delicious cuisine, beauty industry, cutting-edge tech, natural beauty, and vibrant heritage. So, what's pushing South Korea to this demographic panic? And why is childbirth now a paid service? Let's see what the data says. In 2023, each South Korean woman only had 0.72 kids on average. Meanwhile, 2.1 children per woman are needed to keep the population stable without immigration. To put that in perspective, it's the lowest fertility rate of any country on the planet. Back in 2015, it was 124, and it's been dropping ever since, now holding the world record. What does this mean? For instance, if the first generation has 100 people, it could become 36 in the second, 13 in the third, and less than 5 in the fourth generation. South Korea's population today is about 51 million, but projections say it could shrink to just 28 million by the end of this century if nothing changes. This isn't just a number, it's a crisis. In 2023 alone, the population dropped by 122,800. Economically, this is a nightmare. A shrinking population means fewer workers. Time magazine pointed out in February 2024 that the workforce could halve, tanking economic growth and leaving fewer people to pay for things like pensions and healthcare as the population ages. By 2050, over a third of South Koreans will be over 65, putting massive pressure on the system. The government's scrambling because this isn't just about today's economy, it's about whether South Korea can even function in 20 or 30 years. But it's not just money. Society's changing too. Schools are closing because there aren't enough kids to fill them. The New York Times ran a story about Seoksan Elementary School, which went from 700 students to just 4. That's not a typo. 4 kids. Daycare centers are turning into nursing homes because there are more elderly people than toddlers. A country where the sound of kids playing is being replaced by silence. Many cities and regions are at risk of becoming ghost towns due to their disappearing populations. Even the capital, Seoul, home to a significant 18% of the population, had the nation's lowest birth rate in 2024 at just 0.58, demonstrating the national scale of the crisis. This isn't a distant future problem, it's happening now. Why is this so serious? Because it's not just about numbers, it's about the survival of a culture, an economy, and a way of life. If this trend continues, South Korea could face what some call a demographic cliff, where the population shrinks so fast that recovery becomes nearly impossible. Experts say this low birth rate holds lessons for the whole world. South Korea is just the first to hit this extreme. The country has built a global empire. Now they can't build families. So, what's driving this? Let's break it down by gender, starting with the guys. Why are South Korean men saying no to kids? The reasons are a mix of money, culture, and some pretty real pressures. First up, the economy. Living in South Korea, especially in cities like Seoul, is crazy expensive. Housing prices have skyrocketed. Owning a home in Seoul is a dream for many young guys, and renting isn't cheap either. In December 2024, the average apartment and house purchase price in Seoul was around 1.13 billion South Korean won, which is over 820,000 USD. Meanwhile, the average salary is about 2,500 USD, and many South Korean make less than this number. This is a huge barrier to starting a family.
Hold You have to go a large company, a public corporation, or a job in the public sector. If you don't get one of those jobs, you'll end up living in a place with very poor environment throughout your 20s. In that situation, it's basically impossible to think about dating, getting married, or having children.
Then there's education. If you've got a kid, you're expected to pay for private tutoring called Hagwon to get them ahead in school. That's thousands of dollars a year, and it's practically a cultural norm. Jobs are another huge hurdle. The job market is brutal. Youth unemployment is higher than the national average, and even when people land jobs, they're often temporary or low-paying. The Korea Institute for Health and Social Affairs found that 41.2% of men aged 19 to 79 were fine with not having kids. But it's not just money. Culture plays a role too. Traditionally, men are seen as the breadwinners, and that pressure's still there. If you can't provide a certain lifestyle, house, car, good schools, it's like you've failed. Some men see kids as a luxury they can't afford, not just financially, but in terms of time and energy. The South China Morning Post reported that nearly half of Koreans of childbearing age are okay with not having a family, and for men, part of that is wanting to focus on their careers or just enjoy life without the responsibility.
Since my salary has been reduced, I have thought that I might not date. I really like her, and I think I will be happy with her for the rest of my life, but we can't get married because we don't have money.
There's also a shift in priorities. Younger guys are talking about freedom, traveling, gaming, pursuing hobbies, instead of settling down. Social media is full of South Korean men posting about solo trips or late-night gaming sessions, not family picnics. So for South Korean men, it's this perfect storm. Insane costs, job struggles, old school expectations clashing with new school desires, and a sense that kids are a bonus, not a must. It's not that they hate the idea of fatherhood, it's that the math and the mindset just don't add up. Next, let's see what's holding the women back. If you thought the men had it tough, the reasons women are opting out of motherhood are even more layered. Among young women in South Korea, only 4% see marriage and raising children as a necessity. First, money's a factor. Just like for the men, housing, education, childcare, all those costs hit women too. A recent survey on reasons for not having children found that 12.7% of women cited a lack of cash, while 10.7% pointed to education expenses. Raising a kid in South Korea's competitive world isn't cheap, and women feel that pinch hard. But here's where it gets unique: gender roles. Despite being required to work full-time, many South Korean women begin their housework and childcare duties as soon as they return home. Studies back this up. South Korean women do 5 times more housework and childcare duties than men, even with jobs. The BBC talked to women like Yejin, who said, "It's hard to find a dateable man in Korea, one who will share the chores and the childcare equally. And women who have babies alone are not judged kindly." It's a double burden. You're a career woman and a homemaker with no break. It is reported that this imbalance makes women think twice about kids. Why sign up for that? Career's a massive issue too. South Korea's work culture is brutal. Long hours, late nights, and a FaceTime obsession where you've got to be seen at the office.
If I meet a really good person, I will get married, but I want to build career and have a lot of desires for myself. I can't do both at the same time.
Taking maternity leave or cutting hours can tank your career. Women fear losing promotions or getting pushed out. Listen to what this married Korean woman has to say.
Having a baby is so great, and I can't even express why I'm happy, but I recently faced a career gap crisis. I have to take a long-term leave of absence due to childcare. It's really hurtful. I'm in a situation where I can't work even though I want to.
A 2021 study from Biomed Central found college-aged women valued motherhood less than men valued fatherhood, with lower willingness to have kids. Why? Because they see kids as a career killer in a system that doesn't bend. One woman told the DW, "Having and raising a child would cause problem for my career, and I fear I would resent the child for that reason, and as a consequence, both the child and I would be unhappy." A survey of 2,000 Korean nationals showed that 34.6% of women were fine with not getting married, significantly higher than the 21.5% of men felt the same. Some women are even joining feminist movements like 4B, no dating, no sex, no marriage, no kids, to reject traditional roles entirely, protesting gender inequality. That's a rebellion against pressure to marry young and have babies. The New York Times called it a strike against being baby-making machines, women choosing careers or freedom over family. Affordable childcare is hard to come by, and flexible work options are rare. Add in the pressure to marry young and have kids right away, and it's no wonder so many are saying no. The Korean media even called it a gender war, where women are rejecting a system that doesn't support them. In fact, the Equal Employment Opportunity Act of Korea prohibits dismissal or unfavorable treatment due to childcare leave and requires that employees be paid the same work and wages as before when they return. But the reality tells a different story. Taking childcare leave comes at a cost for many South Korean women. According to a survey by KBS News, nearly 70% reported discrimination in work assignments and promotions. Meanwhile, about 71% pointed to biases in compensation and performance assessment. In their interview with Ms. B, who has 2 children, ages 7 and 3, worked as a full-time nurse during the day. She went on childcare leave after giving birth to her second child, but received a call from her boss 2 months before she was scheduled to return to work. They told her there were no departments that could assign her. She ended up quitting her job because she couldn't do night shift work, finishing work at 10 p.m. while raising a child. For South Korean women, it's also about fairness, freedom, and fighting a culture that hasn't caught up. So the situation's dire, and people aren't having babies. What's the government doing about it? Well, they've thrown a lot of money and some wild ideas at this problem. Since 2006, South Korea has spent over $270 billion, yes, billion, on programs to boost birth rates. That's cash handouts, housing help, tax breaks. In 2024, they upped monthly stipends for parents with kids under 1 from 300,000 won to 1 million won, about 765 USD, plus tax breaks and subsidies for housing. South Korea's second biggest city, Busan, has a district that recently raised its childbirth incentive for families with 3 or more kids from 500,000 won to 10 million won, about 7,550 USD. Jeju Island is drastically increasing the first child subsidy from 500,000 won to 5 million won, a tenfold increase in order to resolve its population problem. Meanwhile, in the rural southwestern province of South Jeolla, families receive 600,000 won per child every month for 7 years, adding up to 50.4 million won, which is about 38,000 USD. The local governments also expand benefits for foreign residents to encourage them settle down, get married, and have a child. They've also pushed childcare. UNICEF says South Korea's policies are top-tier globally, with plans to stretch paid parental leave from 1 year to 1.5 by 2025. They're not stopping at money, though. Some ideas are straight-up creative. The policymakers had discussions about hiring nannies from Southeast Asia at below minimum wage to cut childcare costs, or exempting men from mandatory military service if they have 3 kids before 30. Companies have jumped in too. Some offer love bingo events to get employees dating, hoping it leads to marriages and babies. In May 2024, President Yoon Suk-yeol called it a national emergency and pitched a new ministry of low birth rate counterplanning. That's how serious they're taking it. Did it work? Well, sort of. That 0.75 rate in 2024 is the first rise in 9 years, and marriages spiked 25% in 2024. But money alone might not be enough. Until gender roles and work culture change, it's a band-aid on a broken system. Critics point out that policies like military exemptions don't help women's burdens, and cheap foreign nannies don't fix the root issues.
Saying our country will collapse because you don't have children is just something that doesn't hit home at all. In the language of today's young people, it is an unreasonable demand to expect people to get married and have children without presenting an alternative that will make the young with a hard life can live happy.
Indeed, people do not get married and have children just because the government tells them to do so. Still, the government's doubling down, betting more support will shift the tide. Time will tell if it's enough. What do you think? Can South Korea turn this around? Or is this the future for more countries? Leave your thoughts below. This is Scopefy. Like and subscribe for more deep dives.